So she'll meet us in the session. Okay, call order, here we go. 5:01. All right, pledge allegiance time. Ms. Laura, will you please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lefever here. Mrs. Amarillas. Present. Mr. McGivern.
Present.
Mrs. Allen. Mr. Osterman.
Here. All right, next is approval of the agenda. So that is a motion item.
I'll move to approve the agenda as written.
I second.
Okay.
Mrs. Lefever. Yes. Mrs. Amarillas. Yes. Mr. McGivern.
Yes.
Mr. Osterman.
And I'm yes. Thank you. With that, we're going to take a recess till probably about 6 to talk about executive session stuff.
18th.
I won't be here, I wouldn't be here on the 11th.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be anywhere. Born ready. Mr. Blazen? How you doing, sir? Andy? We have to leave. It's 6 o'clock. Great.
Glad to see you dressed up, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock and we will resume the meeting. And it is time for call to the public. Hello? No call to the public. All right, moving right along. So next is, we need to approve the minutes from last meeting on May 9th.
I'll move to approve last month's, meeting minutes.
Any comment?
I did.
Mrs. Lefever,
Yes.
Mrs. Amarilla,
Yes.
Mr. McGivern.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Ostertag.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, now to the real stuff. All right, superintendent presentation, please.
Okay, good evening, President Osterly, members of the board, and member of the community and staff that are here tonight with us. Just some highlights that we will share with staff as well after our board meeting so that they can see what we're presenting today. We have our mission and vision as you've seen all year. Wanted to share some pictures of our academic support and enrichment program. And we have 92 students attending, 10 staff members. Field trip tomorrow will be to the International Wildlife Museum. We will have a learning expo Friday, June 23rd from 9 to 11 for parents to come in and see the projects and the work that kids have done, and we will serve EGs on that day. And you can see here on the bottom left, the kids are using their percussion sticks. There's kindergartners there in the middle. We have a classroom that looks like you're in outer space in the solar system, and when I went in today, they had made the planets with clay, and they actually baked them, and they were making necklaces of the solar system. And then we have our 3rd and 4th grade students collaborating to make a digital escape room that they're super excited about. There's the necklaces there on the left-hand side. We have a lot of writing going on. You can see there, we've incorporated art into the enrichment for all the grade levels. So those are the middle school kids that were doing some looming. And they've tie-dyed shirts. They have actually just done some very creative things in the art class as well. So our character education program, we met and the State Department had 4 approved character ed building curriculum programs that we could choose from. So as a leadership team, we looked at the programs and we had decided to go with Leader in Me. And again, we applied for a $10,000 matching grant through ADE that we haven't been notified of yet. But through Leader in Me, they actually submitted our school as to receive additional funds from the Kern Foundation. So we did receive that, and so the Kern Foundation, I believe, Greg, do you remember if it's a total of $30,000? $30,000 that they're gonna give us. So this curriculum, even though we're supposed to pay matching grants, isn't gonna cost us very much to implement. With the policy revision of IJJ on textbook supplementary materials, this is a program that does need to be posted for the 60 days like regular curriculum. So what I will do is, after notifying you today of this program, we will put it on our website. We'll send out a robocall with the link, and you can all go to leaderinme.org because it's all online, and it's the way we plan to use it is the teachers will do 15 minutes of character building a lesson 3 times a week. But the training will happen for teachers. It starts out with the leader in me in terms of looking at the adult and the mindset. There's a lot of focus on growth mindset, which ties into Carol Dweck's work in terms of I don't know how to do it yet, how to model that motivation, that perseverance. So we're excited about that program. And if you recall, when our teachers did our rubric on school improvement, it was clear that one of our main goals and objectives needed to be the social emotional learning piece. And as we talked in the course of the year in terms of behavior and just the character of our kids really needing to follow something more systemic. Of course, if you practice it as a school-wide, and everybody's speaking the same language, we're going to better able to meet our goals in that realm. If you want to click on it, Nayeli, just so that they can see where. So when you go to Leader in Me on the website, it talks about, it'll walk you through what the program is. If you can scroll down just a little bit. And then click on K-8. And so the Leader in Me in the elementary schools is addressing leadership and life skills, positive and supportive school cultures. So really working on the culture of our school, unfinished learning, resilience, and trauma-informed practices, self-directed learning, and PBIS. So those will be the components that are tied in. But there's so much in the website, so you'll have it to explore as well. And we'll have links on our district website. That will be easy to find. Okay, ADE Change Conference. We attended, Mrs. Cuevas, Mr. Nathan, Ms. Suarez, Mr. Ferguson, and I. Variety of sessions offered for every content and leadership team member. And there were a lot of ADE-sponsored math training on mathematical practices, as we mentioned today in our executive session. We have already contacted them to start to set dates for them to come start helping our teachers better implement the core and work with Ms. Coley in terms of coaching, so we're excited about that. We, again, are looking, and I went to a session on the K-8 model of the letter grades. So you will see here that, again, 50% of the letter grade is based on growth, and when you look at the growth that I demonstrated today, we are pretty hopeful and feel safe saying that we will be able to maintain our A letter grade. Again, looking at our proficiency with our growth, and we will not get our ELL data until mid-July. So they will be rolling out that static file that we downloaded last time that we were able to start to analyze after July 15th. I just completed the Aspiring Superintendent Mentoring Program through AASA, the Arizona cohort, and it was funded by the Helios Foundation. And again, I just learned so much from the existing sitting superintendents and the aspiring superintendents that are in the cohort. So we finished off Friday and Saturday meetings. Our AVID team is off to Summer Leadership Institute. They are leaving tomorrow morning bright and early at 5 a.m. because that was the cheapest rate that we could get them to Denver. So they'll be a little bit tired but energized. So you can see just the community of practices that they will be attending through AVID. So, you know, Mr. Ferguson will be attending the digital teaching and learning, and Deanna and Steve will be going to the site leaders cohort for experienced AVID implementers. And you'll see Ms. Membrila going to transforming literacy through content area. There's Ms. Coley's going to the math section. So we're very excited about our continued AVID work for the fall. So again, thank you for another amazing year. I hope you have a great evening and great summer. And there's our picture that we took at the photo booth at Leading Change with, in case you don't recognize us, there's me, Steve, Deanna, and Mr. Ferguson. And I'd like to end with Hakuna Matata, which was today at So no worries, we're gonna get through the summer with a good plan for the fall, and so just thank you so much for your continued support. That completes my presentation.
Awesome. And item number 9 would be the superintendent's statement of the district.
So you do have this, and we uploaded it earlier just so you could preview it and see. If I wanted to not spend too much time on it, but if you go down to the 3rd slide. So we shared a lot of information on the AASA state data, but I wanted you to look at this for our reading achievement in terms of where we are spring with NWEA MAPS, which is our formative assessment, our benchmark assessment. And you can see here that kindergartners in reading are at the 60th percentile compared to national peers who are at their age at this time. And you can see it's phenomenal, right? Because we want all of our kids to be in the green and blue as proficiency. So we ended the school year with only 8% of our kinder kids below proficiency. 1st grade, you can see we're at the 46th percentile in reading, 2nd grade at the 51st percentile, and 3rd grade we're at the 45th, and so on. So you can see, since we were analyzing 3rd through 8th grade data, where the students are in their percentiles, in their median percentile, you can see that it's pretty accurate to how the kids did on AASA. And that's the purpose of our benchmark, is we want to have that indicator early to know how they're going to perform so that it's not this major surprise on how kids do at the end of the school year. Okay, next one, the next slide. So then you look at the math, look at our kindergartners, they're at the 66th percentile in math as kindergartners. 1st grade 42, 2nd grade again 63rd percentile. So we really feel that with this data, and we talked about it, the numbers don't lie, and we're really going to be able to start the school year with hitting the ground running in terms of what kids need to continue their academic performance and success. Okay, next one. Again, this was just some of the early results that had come in that you already know about, so we're very proud of them. Just a curriculum overview on what we continue to use. So we have Benchmark Advance and Collections. For ELA for middle school, because of COVID and the program, we've had virtual online professional development, and this year we've contacted the company to say we really need an in-house person to come and present this for ELA. We're continuing with Musella and Wilson. We have Reveal Math using Beyond textbooks, and we have our resources for a dual language program as well. I'm super excited as I looked at the IXL data, because we have had IXL since 2019 from the investment grant that we received from Freeport at $75,000. And our kids still continue to master the amount of skills and spend the amount of time that they did use in 2019. So we want to continue to motivate our kids, and we talked about just getting better at recognizing the kids quarterly in terms of their growth so that we can keep them motivated to continue to work in the IXL program. Staffing update, you can see this is already outdated because as of right now before the meeting, the teacher that we were talking to today that Mr. Lathan and Mrs. Cuevas took around and showed her around, and she just sent a text that she's 110% ready to come on board. So we're super excited, so we don't have any vacancies now. Our staffing trends, as we look at, just wanted to show you where we are in terms of staffing, because we talk about special ed teachers and elementary teachers and why we lose teachers. And again, a lot of it is for either advancement, retirement, or moving. We will continue to do our exit surveys that Ms. Alonso will continue to give out as people leave to help us improve in whatever areas staff feels we need to improve in. Just an update on what we did for recruitment and retention this year. Continued, again, our stipends that we offer, our professional development days. It means a lot, and we actually have increased, right? Remember, we didn't have any early release Wednesdays, and we went to having all 4. And that really does make a difference for teachers to collaborate and plan and to have that time. Okay, budget and financial stability. There's some numbers for you just to see that we continue to be grateful for Greg holding the line and optimizing our funds and still making sure that we balance our budget, but also making sure that we have what we need to be effective. Okay, school facilities board projects. We continue to also thank Greg for him submitting these projects and saving the district lots of money. What was our total, Greg, that we talked about?
For projects coming up, we're just at about $2 million.
So we're very grateful for that, so thank you. Okay, again, our tax credit funds, sustaining our club sports and tutorials. You can see just there, I wanted to give you an idea of where we've been and where we are. And we continue to communicate with our learning community in this variety of ways. So we will just stay the course and keep inspecting what we expect from parents, staff, and students. Planning and preparation for next school year. Again, we are working to maintain our 8 letter grade, and I did share with the governing board our work on professional learning communities that we're going to be working on for the summer and fall. Our Reteach and Enrich program, we got it off the ground, but we're going to continue to refine it to make sure that we are targeting the right standards. We will be applying for the A+ School of Excellence Award. If you remember that the principal had to be in the role for 3 years, and then so COVID hit, so we're ready now to apply. And again, implementing our Character Ed program. We continue to appreciate everybody that supports us. We couldn't do it without the Rotary and our community involvement and our foundation, so we're very grateful for that. And there's just my family, and just have that family is everything, as you know, and I really want to emphasize the importance of taking care of yourselves, your families, and enjoying this summertime to regroup, refresh, and get ready to hit the ground running again in the fall. Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Any comments, anybody? Okay, Mr. Lathan, looks like you're up. You got 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Do it.
Lovely.
I can make it short on that if that's what you want. Really quick, just an explanation on my presentation. I've shared it with the board many, many times. I believe the last time, Ruth, is when you first came in. So Laura, I'm gonna go over it really fast because most of the stuff you've actually volunteered and helped me do over the years. So if you see something that you want to ask a question or clarification, just raise your hand because the first several slides, I'm going to move fairly quickly. Okay, next slide. This is our goals. Students who are ready to learn, students who are respectful to adults and each other, students who are happy to be at school, teachers who are excited to be teaching the curriculum, teachers who spend minimal time on behavioral issues. Goes into PBIS, positive behavior intervention systems. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because Laura is a parent here. You've seen that with your own child, and I think the board is on track there. Next slide. Our 3 school rules: be kind, safe, responsible. We carry these all the way from preschool all the way through 8th grade. Next slide. We talked about teaching expected behaviors. We can't just expect the kids to show up and behave the way that we expect at school. So in the beginning of the school year, we train our teachers to train our students. Next slide. Acknowledgement system. So we look at catching kids doing the right thing is a really big thing that we really try, and that's part of the PBIS way, if you will. And so we do different things like Colt Box, Colt of the Month, which all of you guys are familiar with. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. That one there's just to encourage kids in the middle school. We noticed that they were getting out of class like 5 periods in every period they were going to the bathroom. And so we cut down on that and gave them a card so they only have 15 times in a month to leave class. Keep in mind they have time to go to the bathroom during transition periods from every class, lunchtime, etc. And we really saw that improved the amount of time kids were, it decreased the amount of times kids were missing educational time that otherwise they were in the bathroom. Next slide. Reward system, next slide. You guys kind of know what that is, our Colt of the Month and Colt Box. Next slide. This here is the discipline matrix, flow chart, if you will, that we give out at the beginning of the school year to all of our staff to help decide if it's teacher handled or monitor handled versus go to the office and Mr. Latham and Mrs. Cuevas handle. And once again, that's something that we'll retrain at the beginning of every year with our staff. Next slide. Consequences, typical consequences, you've kind of seen these things up there. We're really trying to do the restorative practice model that we've talked a lot about. I'm going to talk more about that towards the end of my slide, where I get into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes of my presentation. Check in, check out. This is an interesting, you talk about PBS, you have different tiers, right? And the top tier is kind of the kiddos that were really having a hard time and not figuring out how to follow the rules. This year we did a checkout system, and I have never seen it work as well as I did with one kid that was one of our biggest troublemakers at school. Totally turned it around by fourth quarter, and came to me and sat in my office one day and said, you know, I figured out how to stay in class and not get kicked out. Now I want to get C's or above. And to see that type of drive in a student who couldn't make it through the first 5 minutes of class just floored me. And I'm a huge believer in check-in, check-out system. Not that I wasn't before, but I actually saw it like work really. I've seen it work many times, but really work with one of our students and just totally turn around his life and he learned to enjoy being in class and set goals that no one was asking him to set at that time. He came in and set them for himself. Fantastic. Next slide. Restorative practices. We've gone over this before, but this is kind of that making the consequences relative to what they do. It used to be considered traditional consequences or like suspension, expulsions, things of that nature, where the numbers and research shows that it just doesn't work with our generation of kids that we're working with now, because they'd rather be home playing video games than here at school. And so we've really worked at having worked with Mr. Curtis, myself, Mrs. Cuevas, and if there's opportunities to make amends with the people that they offended, to do that. One of the ways that we do that is a PowerPoint presentation, which works really, really well. We have a panel of people in here sometimes that they'll present to when appropriate. Sometimes if they did it in a classroom, whatever it was that they did, maybe they said something that offended the teacher and disrespected them. If their parents approve of that, they'll actually do that presentation in the classroom and apologize to their peers as well as the teacher. And that's taking accountable for their actions in an appropriate way. So obviously we kind of weigh that, talk to the parents to decide what's the appropriate audience for that. Okay. All right. Now we're going to kind of, I've already presented this slide, but I just want to review it because I want to compare first semester to second semester if we can. So if we look here, 71 total infractions reported for K through 8. This is just first semester, 20 majors, 8 students, totaling 12 days of in-school suspension. 2 students equaled 5 days of out-of-school suspension. 6 students, 14 altered school day. Remember, an altered school day is instead of me suspending them, I allow them to come to school and they go to the academic portions of the school day. But during lunch, recess, specials, they come up and they work on the PowerPoint. So they're with us, and then, so they're kind of, the free periods of the day they're taken away, but they're still receiving the education that Continental provides for them. 48 restorative presentations in first semester. That means that approximately 90% of our students are being time safe and responsible all the time. Okay, next slide. All right, second semester. So we did see some changes. 52 total infractions are reported for K-8, so that's about the same, so relatively the same. 31 minors, 21 majors, once again, pretty close to the same. 7 students equaled 14 days of in-school suspension, so you'll see that I believe that went up a little bit. Out-of-school suspension was 8 students, 25 days out of school. That went up a lot, okay? Let me explain why. Sometimes in our jobs, kids break laws, like legal things, and that's what happened. We had a group of individuals make some really bad decisions, and so that explains why that happened. I don't foresee that being a normal trend here in our school, and like I said, some of the students that may have been a part of that, we saw a huge change that actually opened up their world and helped them realize, and their parents realize, that some changes needed to occur. And so we did see those changes. So I don't look at that as a black eye, in my opinion, because I saw it as a wake-up call and a good thing for some of those families. 6 students, 10 altered school days, 26 restorative presentations. Once again, that puts us right about in the same ballpark of most of our students. You look at this right here, right? Keep in mind, these overlap sometimes. Most of the times, some of these kids are the same. So that's the kiddos that Mr. Curtis, myself, and Ms. Cuevas really spend a lot of our time working with, mentoring, and trying to help them figure out just how to get along and follow the rules and be kind, safe, and responsible. Next slide, please. I took the first semester one out because we already covered that last time, but this time for second semester, it's pretty much the same list. I added one, and I added this one here. Bus misconduct went up quite a bit in the second semester. We had a lot of issues on the bus. Some of those suspensions actually came from behaviors on the bus. We're really grateful for the cameras that we have on the buses. It's helped us solve a lot of those problems, not only for us, but even legal matters when it comes to that. And Mr. Lane and I and Mrs. Rico and Mrs. Cuevas have already been working on plans to help improve the busing situation next school year, and have a lot of ideas that I'm sure we'll be sharing in the future as far as how we look at helping that situation. Behavior improvement plan, so some of the things that we're going to be enacting and doing or continuing to do: train all teachers in CPI, de-escalation strategies. Those of you that don't remember, CPI is Crisis Prevention Intervention Training, which Ms. Fanning and myself are certified trainers. And usually it's like the nonviolent restraint stuff, but there's a really good de-escalation. We don't certify the staff in that because they have to have the whole thing to do that, but we really do work on those de-escalation skills that can work. We train our bus drivers in it. We train our whole staff, our monitors, the preschool. It's a great program that we just look to continue and expand, especially to our new staff. All staff, can you go back one for me? All staff trained in Leader in Me. I'm not going to go into great detail. I was prepared to do that, but Ms. Rico covered that very well in her presentation, so I'll leave that there. And then the continuation, of course, of the PBIS tactics that we really use with our students down on the ground level. School safety and security updates. We have a threat assessment team, as we know that we started creating that, and I'll just do a really brief explanation because people don't always know what that means. A lot of times people think that means we assess the campus and things of that nature. This actually isn't what that is. The threat assessment is working with students. So if a student appears to be of a threat, instead of just wearing white gloves and kind of hands off, it's actually the opposite approach, where we meet with the student, we meet with their parents, even their coaches, whoever we can, their teachers, and we try to get a picture of what's going on, and we try to solve their anger or their frustrations so that they are not a threat to our community, which is a long time coming and a big part that's been missing all the way back to Columbine days. And so we have that team. That team consists of our SRO. It consists of our school counselors, our school psychologist, Ms. Cuevas and I, and then a couple of our teachers. So there's quite a big group of people that sit down and work on the mental wellness of the student and helping improve that rather than waiting for something to happen and then come with punitive action. Okay? The threat assessment adoption, I'll go into in the next slide because I added one on it, so I'm going to skip that for now. Target hardening, you guys have heard me talk for days about that kind of stuff, bus evacuations, fire drills, lockdowns. Okay, any questions there? Okay, let's go to the next slide. The threat assessment adoption, Ms. Rico tasked myself and Mr. Ferguson to be a part of the Pima County. The Pima County Sheriff's Department created task forces to tackle different issues that they felt were important for school safety. And threat assessment adoption was one of them. Because our school was already looking at our own, it just made sense to put us in there. So we had looked at a couple different models and really liked one, but it was very expensive. But the state pays for it for the first year, but then after that, no one had answers. If it would, then the cost would fall on us. Two decisions took us in a different direction. So we have adopted CSTAG, which Pima County fully supports. We later found out that the trust actually, that's the one that they back, our insurance company, and they have certified trainers that will come and train us in CSTAG. And then the Pima County Sheriff's Department also, that is what they are condoning and wanting all their schools to use because their SROs move around to different schools. And if we all have one unified threat assessment, it just makes it easier. What is the threat assessment? It's a series of documents and pages of different questions that we can ask both, like I said, the coaches, parents, but also to the child. So there's a lot of communication that happens with our mental health professionals and the child to make sure where is their state of mind and what additional resources can we give them. Okay, and so that's kind of what this is. In my mind, it's very similar to our MTSS and the way that we do our IEPs for our special needs students. And all it is to get the kids that are struggling in certain areas the help that they need so that they can succeed. And that's really what this is. And the caveat, you know, on the safety junkie, it helps keep the rest of us safe on campus and aware of any potential or growing threats that could arise within our own ranks here at school. Okay, next slide, please. CSTAG training, the Continental Threat Assessment Team will be getting training at the beginning of the school year by either the trust or one of Bell's school psychologists. I was actually approached, Ms. Cuevas and I and Mrs. Lathan attended the Pima County Active Attacker training on Friday. And one of the SROs had me get up and talk a little bit about school safety since it's my jam. And a lady from Bell approached me and said that she is actually lives here in Sarita and is a certified trainer as well. So instead of waiting for the trust, and it's no cost to us except for the manuals that we can actually buy, I believe, off of Amazon for like $26 is the manual for that. And then they would train the staff for free. And so that's something that we're definitely going to be doing moving forward and training that entire team that I mentioned earlier. Next slide. All right, now it takes to the fun part of my job. First quarter sports, we've already seen this. Okay, volleyball, 39 athletes, so total night of 89 athletes in first quarter. Go ahead, next slide. Because the board's seen it, I'm going to move through it. Okay, second quarter, total of 90 athletes for boys basketball, girls soccer, and cheerleading. Next slide, please. And notice 35 for cheerleading. That's amazing. That's great. So I know at last month's board meeting, we talked about a dance program behind it 100%. The board meeting right before the school year starts, I will be introducing that, and the board will have to vote to approve that, and then we'll begin looking at coaches once that's approved and funding sources for that. So based off of that 35 for cheer, I think that the the numbers are there, that we could definitely support a program at that level. So great suggestions. I love it. I was listening, and you'll see more. And if you want to come and help me write something, an introduction to the board, then please do that. If not, I've done a lot of our clubs that we currently have, so that's not a problem, but we'll move forward with that. Okay. Third quarter, total of 84 athletes, four sports, but wrestling, notice we only have 9 athletes, which meets our minimum requirement, but it was one of our most dynamic wrestling teams that we've ever had here at Continental School. So those boys worked really, really hard and had a lot of success, and it was really fun to watch them compete. Next slide, please. Third quarter accomplishments. Wrestling actually won the Sportsmanship Award, so we're super proud of them. Like I have told you guys 100 times, I'd rather have a Sportsmanship Award than a championship first place trophy, because it talks about the character of our kids and our athletes. I love it when we get both at the same time. That's my favorite. And it has happened. Okay. Fourth quarter sports, boys baseball, only 11 athletes. And this is kind of one of those awesome stories. So they only had 6 and at the start of the season. And so we went around and talked to some kiddos. We actually had a bunch of our track athletes double up and do 5 sports the entire year. Because they volunteered and said, we want to support our school and our baseball team, and we'll go play baseball and do track at the same time. So that was really, really neat to see that inner support and the selflessness that some of our student athletes have in order for their friends to have a baseball program that want to play baseball. So super excited about that. Girls softball, 25 athletes. Co-ed track, 59. This is a record for our school. We've never had a track team this large before. So that was fantastic to see as it continues to grow, making a total of 95 athletes for fourth quarter. Fourth quarter accomplishments, girls track ended up 2nd place, just narrowly missed first, and boys track ended up 3rd place, and track also was awarded the Sportsmanship Award. Once again, trophies, Sportsmanship Award, I love it. Okay, now here's something that you haven't seen on the other quarters, is fourth quarter sports accomplishments for track. We actually had several school records made this year, which makes us really excited. In the 100-meter dash, Audrey Kahn ended up with 13.24. The record previously stood for 14 years, so a 14-year-old record was beaten this year. That was a little sad because that was my first year here, if you remember, and one of my athletes that she beat their record. And the 4x100 meter relay was set by those 4 girls at 56.24. All right, and then the 4x100 meter relay, they ended up breaking it again. So they broke it twice. They broke their own record a little bit later at the league meet. They ended up doing a 55.87. And then at the 100 meter dash, Arlene Morgan ended up a 12.82, setting the school record. And she broke her own teammate's record that set that earlier this year. And a note there is she is only a 5th grader. So we are really excited to see what this young lady, phenomenal athlete in lots of areas. So we're really excited to see what she has to bring to athletics next year as this official 6th grader.
Steve, I have a quick question. Do you keep all these track records in your
Track-
office somewhere?
Track records are actually located on a big blue board in the middle school lobby. There's a track board in there that it has the records, and that was there before I came here. I don't know when it started or who put it up there, so you just took what they have, and then of course I have a Google Doc like all my other million Google Docs with what's on there, and so that's how we track that and move forward. But all these will be updated and put into that board so that those kiddos can come back. We have kids bring their kids back and show them their names up on the board, so it's kind of a cool thing.
My kids don't believe me that I'm on some of those. And it was the year right before we switched to meters. That was in yards, like some of the relays.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing is some of those kids, they come back, you're like, see, that's me. So that's really cool stuff. So that's all I have for you. Thank you for your time. We look forward to working for you. We had a great year this year, both academically and athletically. So we look forward to continue to serving you and our community. So thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great stuff, huh? Okay,
Little over 3 minutes, Steve, I'm sorry.
that was close. It's a lot of stuff. Okay, so we have a consent agenda, which is a motion item, and then we can discuss after we have a second.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Any discussion? Quite a few items on here. I just have one, and she's probably not listening or online, but to congratulate Ms. Belletti on getting her master's. I mean, for all you teachers that and staff that go and get another degree, like Ms. Gravis is on the precipice of getting her doctorate, while you have a full-time job, teaching and all that is absolutely incredible. So I really admire, the determination and stuff, whether it's online, in person, at night, whatever it is, it's still a lot of hard work. And congratulations, especially to her and to all the other ones that we've never pointed out.
You will relay the message. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. LaFever,
Yes.
Mrs. Amarilla.
Yes.
Mr. McGivern,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Osterhus.
Yes. Oh, and now we have the financials.
All right, well, since Mr. Latham didn't use up all of his 3 minutes, I'll go ahead and just take his extra time, if that's okay. Just like every other board meeting, before you is the district financials. These were as of, I believe, June 4th, when I printed these out. And I'll open it up to any questions that you may have.
I have a somewhat related question. It's not really specific to the reports. What's going on with auction things, like all of our antique bus supply?
That's coming up.
Talk about that later.
It's an agenda item here.
You've already approved more.
It's already
of the
approved.
auction.
But I didn't know if you had sold anything yet, it was included.
So we're in the process of getting it all staged in the bus barn.
Okay,
We're
well, we can talk
working on
about
it.
it later. We can talk about the next.
It's fine, it kind of goes along with this. It deals with our capital assets, so you're in the right category.
Okay.
But we're in the process of getting it all ready. We'll start, putting lot numbers and everything else on what we have in there and getting it going. As of right now, we still don't have the buses or the vans. But once Mr. Lane comes back from his summer vacation, we'll make sure we get those to you for your approval to dispose of and get those out on the auction.
But did we not do one 6
We
months
have-
ago?
No, we did.
We did.
No,
Okay.
there's a formal form that we have that we need to bring into you so we can do that.
Fair enough.
Are we allowed to buy stuff on the auction?
So, the state of Arizona rules are that employees and board members are not permitted to purchase items at an auction, simply because you have a direct, here's the example that the state gives, is we could put out a brand new van for auction, not tell anybody, let you know about it, and you can get it for, a couple $100. So that's why district employees and board members are not permitted to purchase.
But we could buy another district stuff.
You can buy any other district stuff.
It's amazing, if you go on there, you get links to like police stuff and other.
On there, you'll find a lot of, police seizures.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of that.
It's tempting because those vans up there are almost new. They were introduced in like the 60s.
The Astro van?
The Astro van. Scooby-Doo.
Little sarcasm.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. We have a motion on the, budget, or the, financial report.
I'll move to approve the financial report.
The second.
Okay.
Mrs. LaFever,
Yes.
Mrs. Amarilla.
Yes.
Mr. McGivern.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Osterhus.
Yes. Just a note to follow protocol. I know we've always done it that way where we discuss it before we vote. To follow the protocol, generally we approve or get a motion first, second, and then time for discussion. Just so, in case somebody gets real particular. So if you would throw that around, you can do that. Only took 6 years for me to notice that. Okay, what is now unfinished business? The second reading of the ASBA policy.
This is an action item,
It is.
so we are approving it this time.
Or not. So this is our second read, so it's time to ask questions, to approve or deny. As we look at the textbook adoption, the curriculum development, curriculum adoption, and textbook supplementary material, the biggest change there is that they are stating that if you have a committee that's approved, like let's say when we did the math curriculum committee, that is subject to open meeting law, and you cannot talk about curriculum that's on display if you do not have all the members of the committee present. So it goes back to pockets of people discussing curriculum outside of the actual curriculum committee meeting to discuss the adoption. So that's one of the changes that is being made. And if you note, it says that there have been, it's on that very first page, or right here, boards that authorize textbook review selection committees are subject to open meeting law. There have been multiple open meeting law complaints in 2021, 22, and 23 about curriculum adoption committees. And that falls into place of all the whole public wanting to know about the social emotional learning components and the books that were being used in ELA adoptions.
Because having it on display for 3 months isn't enough.
Right.
This only applies to the curriculum committees.
Right.
And so the practical implications would be those committee meetings would need to be posted with our events and possible forum. And they would need to do a call to the public beforehand. They would have to meet at their proposed location. They might have it in someone's classroom, short notice. Anything else?
No, and typically we post and we set when we have the committee meetings, because we always open it up to parents to come be part of the committee, and we state when the meetings are gonna be. And a lot of times, parents don't show up, but we have the
You
committee
have to do
meeting
the
and it's
whole live
announced.
stream thing and stuff too?
No, it's more in terms of notification,
Notification.
right? They just don't want secret meetings on the side being discussed about specific curriculum.
As long as the committee members understand the open meeting law,
Right.
which is pretty safe.
And the good thing is that we have a current adopted reading and math curriculum. And as we continue to look at science and social studies curriculum and using beyond textbooks, the next thing will be that we'll be bringing more science curriculum probably for middle school only. And in terms of the character building, the leader in me, because it is a state approved curriculum, there's the board that we typically have to choose what the state is going to approve. Although it's not a textbook per se, I just felt like we can just consider it a resource, which is different here because they've added resources and supplemental material. So I figure since it's gonna be supplemental, then we'll just put it out there for parents and staff to know about. Okay.
Okay.
The other one on meds has been just training for teachers in terms of seizure training for epilepsy. It's not administering meds, but making sure that teachers are aware of the process for students with epilepsy. And those were the main highlights of the policies.
I mean, it's more red tape, but it doesn't seem too burdensome.
No, and it's for the sake of transparency, so we just, I mean, it's not anything that's not doable.
Good.
Okay?
I will move to approve the new ASBA policy advisory. 7.4.
Thank you. Again, we violated our protocol. In one of these times. You know, recognizing the problem is step one.
Good job. Good job.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Lefever,
Yes.
Mrs. Amarilla,
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Oster.
Yes. And on to the, believe it or not, already for next year. 6.5 weeks till school starts.
Well, we actually, because the calendar year starts in July,
Yeah.
so this is why we approved it in June, because the year actually
And
starts.
they pretty
in
much
July.
follow the same Tuesdays
Yes.
as we have been.
Yes. The only thing that we are, going to be looking at is a special board meeting, because the meeting is July 18th, and we had originally moved it to July 18th due to the fact that we, with our vacancies, we're hoping to give us a little bit more time and summer for everybody to come back and get our hires on, but now that we don't have people to hire. But Greg did bring to our attention after we posted this date that the budget has to be, approved by July 15th, 14th? 15th. So we are going to have to schedule a special board meeting, just a 15-minute.
The 15th is a Monday.
It's a Monday, so we were looking at either proposing Thursday or Friday, the 6th or the 7th of July. It could be a call-in meeting. No.
What time?
So that's what we wanted to check with you.
The July 15th is the option.
Yeah. So we didn't know if you preferred to do an early morning. If we did 7:45, 8 o'clock, would that work? Because I know if you'll be able to call in,
The Monday?
Ms. Allen, I don't know. This was a Thursday, Friday. We had originally talked about the Monday or Tuesday, the 10th or 11th. But Mr. Schubert was trying to plan those 2 days as vacation days, but we,
And I'll be gone that whole week.
okay, so the 6th and 7th works out better,
Yeah, early morning's good.
early morning,
On the 6th preferably.
6th on Thursday. Is that good?
Yeah.
Do you want to say 7:45, 8 o'clock?
7:45.
Okay,
If that's okay.
yes.
It works perfect for my schedule.
All it'll
Yeah.
be is approval of the final budget, so everybody can call in if needed. I will be calling in as well.
Okay, call in.
I'll be live.
Yes.
Me too.
You'll be what, live?
Yeah.
Greg and Magali
I can
and
bring breakfast.
Steve.
breakfast what?
Breakfast.
Depends on what you're bringing.
Omelet?
That's what you bring.
Bottle of water?
Breakfast noodles. Breakfast noodles on
Steak and eggs, come on.
Yeah, steak and eggs. I'm sure you got two.
I'll be
Okay.
here.
So we need a motion for the, approve the calendar.
I move to approve the proposed calendar. I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
We just discussed it.
See, it's 3 in a row. Okay.
Mrs. Lefever,
Yes.
Mrs. Amarilla,
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Oster.
Yes. And now, speaking of the budget vote, the proposed budget, oh, yeah, I'm trying to skip you.
Yes, let's skip that one.
So as a result of our executive session, do we approve the superintendent's performance pay as, decided in the executive session?
I will make a motion to approve our superintendent's pay as discussed in executive session.
I second.
Any discussion? Just so you know, it was unanimous.
Thank you. appreciate you.
So, okay.
Mrs. LaFever,
Yes.
Mrs. Amarillas,
Yes.
Mr. McKibben.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Ms. Rosner.
Okay, now we go to the proposed budgets.
All right, go ahead. Ms. Neal, you could go ahead and put that up on screen for everybody. This is not gonna take 3 minutes.
I spent 2 hours on the thing.
So do you think it'll take 30 minutes or less than 3 minutes?
I will take as long as I need to,
Yes, sir, okay.
as long as you will let me, how about that? Okay, so, on the cover page of the upcoming, this is our proposed budget, this is the first step in putting together the budgets for next year. In the middle of the right-hand side, you'll see our estimated tax rates. As you can see, everything there is going down. That is due to the fact that we've lost almost $2 million of our budgeting capacity due to not getting tuition for our high school students. So with that, tax rates dropped dramatically. So we are looking at a budget of 7.6 million, which is roughly $2 million less. Within our M&O programs, we are looking at 556,000 within our capital budget programs. All of our federal grants, we are looking at 791,000 with a total aggregate budget limit of 6.9 million. Our average teacher salaries for the upcoming school year, right now it's looking at 43,470. Last year's was 40,893, which is an increase of $2,577, or roughly 6%. If you go to the next page, please. This is our district contacts. Down at the bottom of this screen, it tells you what student information system we have, what we use as our accounting information system, our bookstore cash receipting system, and our district's website. Next page. Here's where we get to the meat and the potatoes. If you take a look along the right-hand column, you will see a lot of the decreases that we have. Just for an example, 43% increase in regular education. There is a 73% decrease in instructional staffing. There is a, 28% decrease in special ed instruction. So you see that down at the total bottom in the right-hand corner, we're losing roughly 26%. We're down 26% from the previous year.
That's because of the high schoolers.
A lot of that is the high schoolers, yes. Staffing wise, we're still looking about the same. No major increases or decreases. Yeah, that's really about it. I mean, everything is pretty much the same. There are some slight increases in some lines. But just remember, this does take into account the 15% increase in healthcare and the 2% increase in state retirement. So everything else is pretty much adjusted for inflation and then scaled back towards what our actual budgeting is going to be. So when we did the budget, we increased every line by 7%, and then we figured out how much we were going to have, and then we started to cut back from there. So we ended up cutting back after 7% increases on every line. We cut back by a little over $600,000 after taking out the tuition costs.
What's line item number 10?
Line item number 10. So that's the school-sponsored co-curricular activities. Right now, we don't have a budget line for it. We didn't spend any money in that line last year. So since we didn't spend any money in it, I didn't budget any money for it. So if we do end up with something in there up in the upcoming year, we will, just readjust throughout the budget and make sure that those expenses are covered.
Wait, give me an example.
School-sponsored co-curricular activities. So if I was paying for, the folklorical sponsor out of the M&O budget, that would be a co-curricular activity expense.
And then line item number 18.
18, okay? So that $22,000 was, part of it was sped tuition. There's a small piece of that that was within there, roughly $18,000 of that was sped tuition. And then the other portion, the other $3,000 was, some trainings that never happened over this past school year. And Mr. President, if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind answering questions page by page, since there is a lot.
I think this is a okay format.
Okay, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to make this number 4 in a row.
Right?
All right,
Grand slam.
next page, please. So this is where we break apart our special education, by type. We don't budget special ed by disability type, so everything just stays under a group disability amount. So you see there that, our total sped expenditures are gonna be we're looking at $877,544. We did budget $2,000 for sped, or for gifted education this year. So let me talk to you a little bit about gifted education. Gifted education, we have 18 students who have been identified as gifted. Okay? Those gifted students generate a 0.002 weighted ADL. So roughly, I think altogether it was 67 cents is how much we were getting funded for gifted education. So some of the money that we have within SPED is being reallocated to that gifted education, because we do have to do our part for the gifted students as well as we do for those with special needs.
Do you guys know what ADM is and how that works?
So with the gifted education, we had 0 there in the budget, but then we didn't want the public perception to be that we do not have any gifted identified kids, because we do. We just don't get money to work with the students. So we don't have money, we don't get money from the state to budget for a teacher for gifted ed. That would have to be something that we would decide to purchase out of M&O if we were going to have a teacher for gifted ed. But when we talk about the revenue that these students generate, it's not enough to.
It's a way for ADE to get away from it being an unfunded mandate.
So, and we haven't had a teacher in how many years? Since Ryan was here, 4th grade, 5th grade?
Probably, that was.
Yeah.
Ever?
So, and what happens is, if you don't have a system to identify the kids, and for a long time, we didn't have a way, a means to identify the students, but we did receive, what was it, $5,000 or $2,000 from the state 2-3 years ago, which helped us purchase the assessment for the gifted students. So Ms. Romanelli has been assessing the students, and we've identified them. And this year it was Ms. Romanelli and Mrs. Cuevas that were working with the gifted students. But as we continue to grow, we really have to have a more sustainable way to support the gifted ed students, because Mrs. Cuevas, obviously as the principal, can't commit to teaching the gifted students in middle school. And Ms. Romanelli is hired out of Title I to be the reading specialist K-3.
So I did ask a funding source if they would be interested in possibly funding them. It's a long shot, but you never know. Try.
Next page. So this is Classroom Site Fund, better known as our 301 monies. Without getting too deep into the weeds, we're looking at a budget of $831,000 for the upcoming school year. What that will do is it'll put almost $2,500 with the 20% that's in the plan. $2,500 over the course of all the pay periods to go into their teacher salaries. That would leave us with about $630,000 left to be spread out with performance pay. So I'd like to be able to tell you about what that would be per teacher, but it really depends on how many teachers are actually going to participate in our 301 performance plan. So I could give you a number, but there's nothing behind it that gives it any accuracy whatsoever.
Do you have a minimum, like if every teacher
If
participated?
every teacher, you're probably looking right around $12,000 in performance pay.
Which half of it is paid out in December and the other half in May, June.
So that would bump our average teacher pay to 55,000.
No, it wouldn't, because when we report our average teacher pay, we just report the base pay. We don't report any
But
stipends.
yeah, when you're recruiting a teacher.
Yeah,
when you're
in
doing
reality,
performance,
it
yes.
is. I mean,
Yeah. Reality, it's 50 some.
And then how much is it for their activities with like, committees or clubs? Is it,
It depends.
separate?
So it,
Yes,
it,
separate.
so
For clubs and
clubs
tutorials.
and tutorials and athletics, it all varies depending on the club or the activity or at the team event.
For
So
the
that all
301
varies.
money?
I'm
For
sorry.
the 301 money,
We don't use 301 money for that,
okay.
so.
Well, I was still on teacher salary, so I apologize for that.
For clubs and tutorials, that's our tax credit funds that we
Right.
use to sustain.
Right, but weren't they, I remember when they come to the foundation meeting, it was part of their 301 responsibility.
So we've changed a little bit of that structure so that it's not, because they used to have to do school supervision and
Yes.
attend so many sports, well, they still have to help.
It's a
with track
difference
meets.
between being a sponsor and just supervising like one sporting event for the entire school year or one track event. So that's part of their 301. The sponsors that actually are spending, several days a week doing it, they get stipends for that. So it's two different.
So next page. So this is how we have our budget, how we have our money budgeted for our unrestricted capital. Couple things I wanted to point out in line 9, under debt service, that is our interest and principal payment on our bus leases. You'll see a nice jump in line 4, right about the middle of the screen under 6,700. We haven't really purchased any school furniture in quite some time. So, and we are a growing district, so we do need new classroom sets of desks, classroom sets of chairs. So we have, if you look down at the bottom there, we have almost $78,000 budgeted for furniture and equipment. We're not looking at buying any vehicles this year. Tech hardware and supplies, we're looking at a budget of $207,399. That's gonna be all of our subscription services that we have and any new computers or infrastructure type equipment as far as IT goes.
What kind of furniture are you guys planning on buying?
Right now, it's mostly student desks, student chairs. There's gonna be, maybe a few actual teacher desks. There's gonna be some teacher tables, the crescent moon tables that the teacher can drive into, some of those. That's pretty much where we're looking at. We do have some quotes in right now for everything, and we're looking at close to $60,000. And that's without getting new teacher chairs or anything else like that. Because we do have some teacher chairs that are in some pretty bad shape. I don't want to call out any teachers about their chairs or anything. But some of them are held together with decorative duct tape. So,
Hey,
Some from the seventies.
DEA is moving from buildings and they're getting rid of all of their furniture. Might be something
who?
DEA, drug enforcement. My husband-
I don't know how many kindergartners will fit into it.
I'm talking about
Oh.
for teacher chairs, and they get rid of like good stuff, so Roxanne, if you wanna talk to the head there,
Sounds good.
even for teachers, the desks and
Yeah, if we,
tables and
if
stuff like
you've
that,
got a place where I can get cheaper desks and chairs and
it's
what
for
I,
free.
that is cheaper.
We have the flatbed out front, we'll load it up.
We've got trucks, we'll come pick it up.
Let them know to clean out his truck. Get some-
What is our
It
interest
doesn't
rate, do you
run.
know, on those buses that we bought, I think one little buses, roughly? I guess my point,
I think off the top of my head, I wanna say it's 5.3. I think that's what it is.
well, that's a bit high, but I guess in this day and age, that's pretty good. I mean, it's all relative, but
Right.
It's pretty good for the dollar amount.
considering,
That's pretty
I
good.
guess it's a good thing we did it this year, or even next for that.
Yeah.
Cause remember, it was what, $860,000?
Yeah, it's a big chunk of money.
So if, on the bottom line there, that's the remaining balance, the 769,890. So take another 150,000, add it to that, and that's about what our original purchase price was. After the payments that we've already made. So this is just a further breakdown, on capital. As you can see, we don't have anything budgeted for new school facilities. We don't have any bond money that we need to budget for, and we're not doing anything within adjacent ways. So we don't have anything here but more of a breakdown of where we're spending our money within capital. Okay, so here's the page with all the federal grants, all the state grants, and over on the right side is all of our cash control accounts. Any big things that I kind of wanted to point out here? If you look at line 28 on the left-hand side, under other state projects, that is our Fund 471, which is our child care stabilization grant. It's our preschool grant. Another big one to look at is line 14 on the right, where last year, or the current year we're currently, we got nothing, but we got 144,000. That's the money that we received from the insurance company for the hail damage to the roofs. That will go back out once we start getting that project up and running, and so that is gonna be our portion, what we will add to the pot to pay for that. Also down there, line 30, you see how it's gone from $25,000 to $2 million. Those are gonna be our SFP projects. We did most recently add a new project that we just submitted for. We'll see how that goes. That is to fix, repair, or replace the domestic water pump as well as the well water pump. Not the ones that we did with the ESSER money, with the pump actually in the well, but this is the above ground pump that actually does whatever it does.
That was replaced at the same time?
No,
Oh, it was?
it-
I remember we did the one in.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That was,
that $80,000 project to get the recased,
yeah. So this is the pressure pump, pressurizes the system?
Sure. It's the one that's currently leaking.
Everything I have is leaking, that doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Right.
Where's your decorative duct tape, right?
Yes.
I hope you at least buy them pretty colors.
I didn't buy the decorative duct tape.
Yeah, but if he gets it from the state, then it's a nice stuff.
So right now, we're in the process of getting bids to see how much it's actually gonna cost. I haven't opened any bid just because if it is above a certain threshold, I can't look at it anyway. So that's why I just have to open them. Other than that, there's really no major changes on this one, unless you all have any questions on any of these before we move on to the next page. Going once. All right, next page. All right, so go ahead and flip that up. Okay, so this is how we actually calculate the actual budget. There are some behind the scene pages where we actually do data entry. So as you can see, there's a small error that I didn't catch, but on our adopted budget, it will not be there. That $416 from M&O into capital, that is probably me just fat fingering a number someplace and missing it. So the actual M&O budget will go up by that $416. Our override, our 14% override is going to net us $559,977. Okay, right there, we're looking at about a $200,000 carry forward for the, that's right now it's just an estimate based on how much we've already spent, what we have remaining to spend. Down there at the bottom, there's an estimated allocation of additional funding, Prop 123. Our portion of that is looking to be $38,775, and there is a one-time state aid supplement in the governor's budget this year, which is going to provide us with an extra $155,000. That is how we came to that $5.6 million total for our budget. As you can see, except for the one small fat finger at the top, back up. Money that was supposed to be in M&O is in M&O. Money that's supposed to be in capital is in capital. We didn't move any money from one fund to the other to help each other out. If you remember, on the current year that we're in, we did throw in an additional $175,000 into the capital budget from M&O, just because we knew it was going to be our first year of bus purchases and wanted to make sure we had enough capital funding to make it throughout the entire school year. Next page. This is where we came to with our capital budget. Right now, we're looking at roughly $27,000 that we didn't spend this year. So out of that 175 that we moved over from out of M&O, it was a good thing that we did. So that's where we got to the $557,000 with our capital budget. And that's it. One more page. Okay, so we don't deal with funds 071 or 072. They are ELL funds, so there's nothing to see here. And then this is just the summary of everything that we had just gone over. So with all that being said, who's got questions? No, he approved us not to have to do that because there is so much. Unless he says, no, we're gonna. Mr. President, I put it back in your hands.
We can talk. Okay, and we'll have a vote. Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it as amended at the $416 correction.
The $416 correction will show up in the adopted budget that we will do at that special meeting in July, so it'll be there.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve it as amended.
I'll second.
And I assume there'll be a couple of tweaks here and there, but minor ones.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call please.
Mrs. Lefevre? Yes.
Mrs. Amadia?
Yes.
Mr. McKibben?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen? Yes. Mr. Oscar?
Yes. Okay, new business would be talking about the Vail and our intergovernmental agreement with Beyond Textbooks. Can you give us 30 seconds?
Again, this is our continued use of curriculum calendaring for science, social studies. They actually have a lot of material and quizzes for reading and math as well, which can be used during the Teach and Enrich.
Motion?
I'll move to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Vail.
I second.
Okay.
Mrs. LaFever?
Yes.
Mrs. Amadia?
Yes.
Mr. McKibben?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Oscar?
And the last major one is to approve 2 additional programmatic assistants for the SPED program.
So again, with the increase of our students requiring services, we are short 2 programmatic assistants to meet the one-on-one criteria for special education.
And are these salaries accounted for in the budget we just looked at?
I'm not sure if I can answer questions yet.
That's right. See, I don't like that rule either, but that's just.
Yeah, I move to approve the 2 additional SPED program assistants.
But what if we decide we don't? But I'm not unsure, I'm unsure.
So the question is, if you offer a motion and then a second, and you discuss it and decide no, then you need to amend the motion on the table.
Okay. Okay, so I second your motion.
So are these salaries accounted for in the budget?
Yes, they are actually accounted for. I'm just trying to follow.
It's Robert's laws, man, But I think we need to talk about this sometime, about how this all works.
We'll double check.
Yeah, I don't think there is, so I think we might change something.
Okay.
Okay.
Mrs. LaFever?
Yes.
Mrs. Amadia?
Yes.
Mr. McKibben?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Oscar?
Yes. Okay. Board event and school events. You did the job fair. It sounds like that all went well. Foundation meeting. Teachers are back on the 3rd. Wow.
Yes, so please mark your calendars for August 2nd for the all-staff breakfast and all-staff pictures at 7:30. So we do take a staff picture and individual pictures at that time as well for the yearbook and your name tags. Okay, and for breakfast.
We also accept donations from board members to pay for the breakfast.
Yes, we do.
It's not in the budget.
That one's not.
Never
Are you
got a receipt
kidding? Are you
yet.
serious?
Waiting for a receipt.
Very serious.
It's in the mail.
In the mail.
Okay, so next would be we're looking at a retreat this fall. We're thinking October. We're also probably gonna see if we can get ASBA to come down for some career development type thing, to help facilitate, part of it. And we're paying them to be a member. Their fee to do that is pretty minimal. I think we can get some value out of that.
What were the dates in October? We don't.
So they're at the back of the agenda. So we're looking at Friday, October 20th, from either 2 to 6 p.m. or 3 to 7 p.m. And we know it's a Friday, but we could feed you some.
Happy hour, you're putting into our
I
happy
know.
hour, happy
Right.
hour.
And then we looked at Tuesday, October 24th, we could do 8 to 12 or a 1 to 4.
3 to 7 works for me, October 20th.
Does that work for you, Drew?
One on who's old.
It's just that one day.
It's just 1 day, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I like it.
Laura, does that work
Yeah,
for
it
you?
does.
Okay. Kelly?
3 to 7.
Yes.
And with that, we'll do some, we have our little, discussion. Anybody? Laura?
No.
Ruth? Andrew?
No wisdom this month.
Madeline? I think I'm done.
I do.
Ruth, that's you.
Sorry. Talk to us about, career day, cause, career day was the day after our last board meeting.
Yes.
So how many people came, presenters?
We had 33 presenters, and it was really good feedback, Nayeli. We received thank you letters from the kids to send out to the presenters. We did receive feedback in terms of at our luncheon and just how personable our career day is, how well we treat our people, the fact that we actually that they see the administrators and that they see us walking around and going into their sessions is really appreciated, because they said a lot of times they go into schools and they just go directly to where they're going and don't really get any feedback about their presentations. So it was a good turnout.
Good, because I have a vested interest in this, since I'm the one who brought it over and
Yes.
started it here many years ago.
Yes.
And you guys are still following the same.
It's the same, but it is, with the way that we scheduled middle school kids, you know, I think this year we figured it out and how to do it, and who did this, Letty do it, or somebody,
The video?
no, it wasn't the video, we had the video, it was how we scheduled the kids, because you remember we used to manually schedule it and then do it on the Google Doc. So,
It was a group effort of our, it's actually of we have a committee now, that's one of our 301 committees, is that committee, and so they work together. Ms. Belletti kind of headed the Google Doc, if you will, for the organization of that, but to let the kids have choice rather than just assign,
Right.
which is fantastic for the kids. They were more engaged.
So they didn't have choice before? Because I know when I brought it, they had choice.
no, they had choice, but it was limited and not all of the speakers were available.
Right.
And it would cater some
Right.
for 6, some for 7, and some for 8. So, they do have choice, so it is very well received. We're happy.
And is it gonna still be in May next year?
Yes. So we already have our dates, so can you please not, it's the
What
Wednesday
date?
of Mother's Day,
What's your date?
the Wednesday of Mother's Day week, so I will let you know.
Mine is the first Wednesday of
That's what
May.
ours is.
Oh my God.
We trump the name, our district next door.
That's right. Yeah. I'll call me and tell him to.
The other, yeah, and the other one. Actually, ours is gonna be the 8th,
Oh, good,
so if you do the first, we'll do the 8th.
okay.
Thanks. Can you put that on for your date?
So he's not nice, we all get along.
For your date, Wednesday, yes. Perfect, okay.
Thanks for the fan break, appreciate it.
Oh, I'll be getting that back.
I've got a fancy.
I can too.
And good job with the A+ for all of you guys, and I hope we continue that even for many years.
Our A, yes, we do too, so we're hopeful for the A. Don't mix the A letter grade with the A+ award. We are gonna be applying for the A+ award, but we are an A school, so we're hopeful it'll stay the same.
Okay, that, oh, is there more? Oh, hang on, there's
Is this just
that.
us? Is this just?
No, it's all, Mr. Osprey signs the one with the tab on it, so.
Okay, hold on, we need more signatures. This is not good. I don't think it's good.
So, Mr. Osprey, back there where the tab is, you also need to sign. You need to sign. Sign the front. You got a special spot to sign.
Okay.
That's it.
just as a reminder, I will be leaving to North Carolina, we'll be taking vacation time and a little bit of work from North Carolina to be with my new grandbaby that we made it. She's gonna be born any minute now.
That's what I thought.
Yes, but we will continue our communication, our Zoom meetings if we need to, and, our updates and continue to keep you updated on anything that.
She's all healthy?
you know. She's all healthy,
Expected to be home?
everything's good, yes.
Good.
So, almost. So thank you.
So with that, we are adjourned.
I'd like the record to show that I returned these two pens to